This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and it's been a while since we did a pen monitor review. The pen monitor means a monitor that looks, well, like a monitor, but you can draw on it directly with the pen. Some of them have touchscreens, some of them don't, but the most important thing is it's a pen for artists, for photo editors, sometimes for video editing, but really not as much, honestly. It's mostly for digital artists, creator types, and some folks who are working in Blender and other 3D jobs as well. So the big gorilla in the room has always been Wacom, and we've reviewed a lot of Cintiq Pro kind of products, and they're very expensive, and it's they're bought by a lot of big companies, Pixar, that kind of company, you know, who have huge budgets, but it's always been a big stretch for everyday normals to buy. What do I mean by that? Well, you look at the Cintiq Pro 27, it's $3,500. That doesn't even include the stand, that's another $500. This is a Cintiq Pro 22, which means 22 inches, and that one is $3,000. Again, $500 if you want the stand. So it's expensive. And the other alternative we reviewed is a selection of mostly Asian brands that are way more affordable budget priced. Somewhere between, the price has been creeping up as they add features and stuff, but somewhere like $500 to $800. And some of them have been pretty decent. We have a bunch of those reviewed on our channel too. And some of them a little less so. Usually the build quality isn't as great. The display quality hasn't been as good, which is fair. They're a lot less money than Wacoms, aren't they? And the drivers are sometimes a bit more kludgy or not having the best translation. So there have been some compromises, but you're saving a lot of money. What I always wanted to see was that somewhere in between. Okay, it's a serious product, it isn't cheap, but it's not insanely expensive, like your kid's first car expensive, right? And that's where the Sense Labs pen monitor, pen display 24, it comes in 24 inch. And this is a company that was founded in 2019 and is owned by Han Von Uji. They themselves make some affordable pen tablets and pen monitors, and they're also the company that basically XP Pen merged into in 2019. So the neat thing is, though, is they're in the United States, and it's a bunch of former Wacom employees. So kind of they knew what people wanted. They're artists. I mean, a lot of people who work at Wacom are artists, so they understand their product. But without the inertia of a big company like Wacom, who doesn't move very quickly and who gets to stay expensive because they're the de facto brand that big companies can afford to buy. So what we have here is a product that's $1,900. It's still expensive, but it's not $3,500. And for that price, you get a nice sturdy stand that can go all the way almost upright and lean pretty far back as well, with a little lever on the back that releases the stand angle. Comes pre-attached for those of you who are allergic to tools, but you can remove it, and it's a VESA 100 mount. You also get two pens, and this is sort of also like a lot of those Asian brands where they throw a whole lot of accessories in the box so you can feel awesome about it, but we never mind when that happens. But the quality here of the pens and of the product itself feels nice and beefy and Wacom-like. So you get two pens. You get the traditional thicker pen, my favorite. I have long fingers and pretty big hands. It's a 3-button pen with an eraser, and then you also get a slim pen with 2 buttons on it and, well, an eraser too. And these are EMR, so just the same kind of technology that Wacom uses, in 8,192 pressure levels, 60 degrees of tilt. So that's all sounding good. You get a selection of nibs in the box. That's not unusual either, but what's nice is you get 4 felt nibs. Though with this display, it has an anti-fingerprint coating, not really necessary because it's not a touchscreen, but you know, your hand will potentially rest on it if you don't use the included glove and smear things, but it's actually AG etched glass. So it's got a nice paper-like tooth to it. So it used to be I would run and put the felt nibs on all of my pens with Wacoms. And with this, I actually didn't bother switching it out because there's so much tooth and grip, it felt really nice. The build quality of the display, the pen monitor itself, is good. It's beefy, it's tanky, it has decent bezels, which is something we actually typically want if you're doing digital art and painting and that sort of thing. Place to rest your hand, right? And also the Express Keys remote, which they call quick keys, only it's even better than Express Key remote, can mount to either side. It has a little holder, and it's just a compression kind of fit, so you can put it wherever you want on either side. And also it has pen mounts, little plastic clips like we've seen on other pen monitors, so you can put your pens left or right. I'm left-handed, so you'll see it set up probably the opposite of what you right-handed people would do. There's also some mounts on the top as well if you like your pens up top. Anyway, that remote is pretty neat. So Express Keys on Wacoms are pretty addictive. Once you have one of those things, you get used to all the buttons, and it's just the quick way to switch between brush and eyedropper. My two favorites are change your brush size and all that sort of thing. So this one is even better because not only do you get a bunch of buttons on it, but you have a little OLED display on it. And so you don't have to remember what those buttons are assigned to. That's the one thing I feel like I never really use the Express Key remote fully, because after a while, you don't remember. So not only that, but you have one set of keys that you can program, and you can have 4 set of programmable ones. So you can cycle through those. So like for different programs, you might need to do different things, like the eyedropper command and the B brush command for Photoshop are great, but if you're using Blender, they probably make no sense, right? So a quick way to switch through all those labeled, you can remember. And you can have 4 different settings also for the rotation, the button that you can spin. So you can use it to control your brush size or to zoom in and zoom out, which is pretty handy because there's no touchscreen. The Quick Keys remote charges, it's wireless, right? And it comes with, there's a little tiny short dongle that you stick into your PC or your Mac, whatever. That charges wirelessly. It goes on a long time without having to charge it. But it comes with a little USB-C to USB-A charging cable, or you can use any USB-C to USB-C if you have a more modern PC. You get every cable in the world for connecting it up. You can use a straight USB-C connection, which supports DisplayPort, which is what I did. I used a gaming laptop and ASUS ROG Zephyrus M16 to make sure there was enough horsepower, so if I saw any misbehaving, it probably wasn't the PC's problem. And you also get an HDMI cable, and you get a DisplayPort cable in the box as well. And the pen display itself has 2 USB-A ports as well, so in case you need to use a hub or charge your phone or whatever, that sort of thing. When you're comparing this to something like a Cintiq, which costs a lot more, though, they always have touchscreen options there, usually for a couple $100 more money. So if you really want the touchscreen, not an option here. I always think I really want the touchscreen, personally. And then it becomes a nuisance because you have the accidental touch problem, no matter how good your drivers are and all that sort of thing. So I think I've decided I'm okay without it being touch, even though I sometimes instinctively try to pinch zoom on the screen, but no touch here. And it's a 60 Hertz display. The latest Wacoms are 120 Hertz, which if it's a gaming laptop makes a whole lot of sense. But when it's just something I'm doing to do digital art and photo editing, it doesn't matter to me. I don't want to pay extra for that. And while we're talking about display quality, of course, it's a 4K IPS display. And they don't claim that it's this bright, but we measured it at like 480 nits of brightness, which is pretty crazy bright for a pen monitor. Wacom's latest, they're saying 400 nits. Wacom's are 10-bit. This is 8-bit plus FRC. Color gamut on this is wide, of course, full sRGB. Adobe RGB is 99%. That is really excellent there, and certainly matches or maybe even exceeds some of the Wacom pen displays. And P3 is 89% coverage. And yes, it is bonded glass, so there is no parallax problem there, which means that when you put your pen tip on the screen, it appears exactly where it should be, no offset. Now, they actually do have a feature in their driver so you can use it as kind of a virtual tablet. So if you want to use the pen to control both monitors, assuming you have some main display, like you're hooking this up to a laptop, the laptop's display, so you can actually do that. And then you can choose to have an offset so you can see what you're doing in case your hand blocks things. It's interesting to actually have to add that feature in. Speaking of the drivers, the drivers are very good. Windows, Mac, and Linux. And we're demoing on Windows. I tested on Mac as well, and it works fine. But they're a real pleasure. They're intuitive. They're easy to use and understand. The features that I cared about were there and not any weird stuff. It all worked well. It worked reliably. I didn't see any strange behaviors. I was pretty happy with that. And then all the features that you want for programming the Quick Keys remote are there, obviously, for assigning the buttons on your pen, which can be just anything you want, just Wacom style, very sophisticated there, and some basic parameters for the pen display. Another thing to note, this is silent. There is no fan inside, something that Wacom people have, owners who complained about the fans can get pretty loud and the display can actually get kind of hot under your hand. So fanless, but good performance, a win there too. So this is all sounding pretty great, and to be honest, I'm having trouble finding flaws with it. Yes, other than the fact it's still $1,900. This is not inexpensive, but it's a Wacom level of quality in the product in terms of the software drivers, in terms of the build of the device, in terms of the pens, the nice pen case, the nibs, all that sort of stuff. It doesn't feel like cheesy, gratuitous stuff thrown in the bag, nasty plasticky pens like you might find in some of the cheapest of the pen monitors on the market. So you're getting what you pay for, as much as you can ever say that in a space that typically is kind of expensive. It feels like something that's good enough to certainly be a professional's tool. Absolutely. And that part is nice. And the 24-inch size is a pretty good one too. It feels darn big, which is lovely, but it's not as unwieldy as a 27-inch for those of you who have some limitations for your desk space, for example. The bezels, again, you know, people who are not artists always pick on those, but the bezels are not that big on this, so I'm fine with them. Some of you might want that. So all in all, really well done here. The only thing that I might want to see in the future is a full 10-bit display, for example, and maybe a touchscreen option, because I know that some people do like to have them. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this vid.